off, the world started falling apart. I mean, it's been falling apart for like the last 3.5 years, but now the bottom is totally falling out today. Headline after headline after headline about market panic. Now, stocks are tanking with the prospects of a Kamala Harris presidency. You stack that on top of the horrific record of the current administration already. But this is how detached this administration is.
Mr. President, what do you want your legacy for Gen Z to be?
Cure the economy
What are you going to
and
do?
the environment and a few other small things.
Yeah, but that was like a couple days ago. He cured nothing. Look, I hate that Americans are the brunt of this, but why is it that when the market is up, Biden was touting it as one of his greatest accomplishments, but when it's also down, like it is today, like big time, he claims to have no control over the stock? I mean, come on, guys. I have been watching the news all day. They are saying that the markets are crazy because of job numbers like you see on your screen right now and unemployment. Yes, that is partially true, but it's not nearly the whole picture. Yes, the fact that Jerome Powell over at the Fed did not lower interest rates, that also didn't help. Markets crashed primarily for three factors. One, anybody with half a brain and an economics degree or any understanding has been saying that indicators that the economy is growing are not actually as strong as this administration and their lackeys in the media have been saying. Look, I'm going to get a little wonky here, but stay with me because it's really important. You heard of the yield curve, right? This is the return on money that you invest has been inverted, or what we can say is wrong, for years. For economic stability, folks, short-term investments should not give you a better return than long-term investments. That's why places like Silicon Valley Bank collapsed, if you recall. Because if the Biden-Harris administration and how they treated COVID, how they did shutdowns and printed money and all the other economically illiterate stuff they did, by the way, this inversion of the yield curve has predated every single recession ever, yet no one in the White House listened to it. They didn't change any policies to respond to that. Also, inflation is up like 20% in the last 3 years. No, everything's fine. No one was listening to the warning signs. I said it for the last 2 years, that our entire market was based on every major banker and trader just smiling at each other, looking around the trading floor and wondering who was going to sell first. And then it seemed like Friday morning, they all stopped smiling and they all started selling. And this is because of part two that I have not heard one mention of all day on any network. And I call it the Trump basket. After the assassination attempt, the markets basically they almost guaranteed a certainty of Trump being reelected. So companies like Caterpillar, Nucor, Steel Dynamics, tons more that are all expected to do well in a Trump domestic economy, that produces here, that won't be affected by tariffs. All those companies soared in value. But Democrats knew this was happening, so they went to their allies in the media. They had a bunch of polls done that they knew would look super favorable to Kamala. Shocking, right, that they would deceive the American people. Democrats ran those polls wall to wall to make it seem like this was a close race. And what happened? Markets reacted again. Suddenly, those same people, they pulled back, who invested all that money in those domestic companies and said, whoa, maybe we shouldn't be so convinced about Trump winning, which I think they're wrong about, but it resulted in a lot of those major investors and those people who wanted to hold value in those companies. They all sold off their stock, or at least large parts of what they bought, and boom, the market tanked like it did today. And the third factor is the global instability we're seeing. First, in case you didn't know, Japan hiked their interest rates and the value of their currency skyrocketed today. And because Japan is the single largest holder of American debt, they have over $1 trillion worth of it, it made the US dollar tank by almost 2%, essentially more inflation. Stack that onto the fact that we are on the brink of a world war, with Iran threatening to strike Israel at any moment, could come tonight or tomorrow. That has sent some commodity prices, like oil and a bunch of others, up as much as 20%. Look, folks, if this doesn't get stabilized real quick, this could be as much as a 50-cent per gallon increase at the pump for you and I in the next 30 days. This has resulted in a conflict America swore not to get involved with, now sending a massive amount of military might to the region. Look, we're sending $30 to $40 billion worth of boats, burning almost $2 million worth of fuel to get there. And that doesn't even include the twin nuclear reactors driving our aircraft carrier that's also on the way. Stack that onto the nearly $5 billion worth of munitions at the disposal of this carrier strike group, most of which are readily attachable to the 80 aircraft on board, worth $1 billion themselves. We just sent or rerouted more than a dozen ships. We got 350 sailors on each of those ships, those destroyers. We have over 4,000 people on the aircraft carrier, not to mention how many more thousands of support people that will be land-based for regional needs. Don't forget about the submarines. Oh, those guys, yeah, just carrying enough nuclear ballistic missiles to take out any country with the push of a button. No wonder the markets are freaking out. Our $50 trillion stock market is teetering on the edge right now. Markets are the litmus test of the country's financial stability, folks. Look, just because you're not personally managing stocks day to day doesn't mean markets aren't managing you in every aspect of your life. You got a 401k? That's invested in the stock market. The value of that has essentially been reduced by 7% because of Joe Biden in the last 3 days. That's a year or two of your retirement money gone. Public pensions, those are also invested in the stock market. And guess what? If a teachers union pension, unlike our private ones, can't meet its requirements, you know what happens? Those pensions are guaranteed by the state or even federal government in some circumstances. So if that portfolio crashes, those pensions that are losing money hand over fist because of this administration's policy right now, they will be backfilled by tax increases on us. The companies that you buy from, if their stock is tanking, they may rise prices on their products to cover their liabilities, making it more expensive for us. You see why this is a big deal? Because banks, just like Lehman Brothers did, by the way, and they went under. They take your money that you deposit while they loan it out. They also invest it in the market. And if you have your money with them and they are over leveraged, when that note comes due, or I don't know, the stock market crashes like it is right now, when they don't have the stock value to cover their losses, you and I lose everything. This could include your mortgage. You better hope whatever bank owns your mortgage does not bet too heavily on the stock market, or your mortgage could be compromised. That's your home in the balance, folks. You see how bad this is? You see why I've been screaming about the economic impact of a Biden administration and Harris? It's a perfect storm of Democrat policies, all brought to you by the people who told us the adults were back in charge 3 months before an election. And the man that is not capable of running for re-election is overseeing all of this right now. Kind of makes you want to go out and buy canned food and an AR-15, huh?